Okay, we have our new brass layer instrument here, and in this video I want to create some variations of this instrument, and we're going to look at using snapshots as a way of saving these variations. And we use snapshots to create multiple either variations or mixes of the same instrument and save them for easy recall, and they're saved in the .nksn file format so that we can share them or back them up or reuse them in another project. So we access the snapshot view via the camera icon in the instrument header, and we manage them here, which we'll look at in a moment. And we click this eye icon to go back to our regular view. So before we dig into this deeper, let's create our first variation. I'm going to click the spanner icon to go into edit mode, and we don't really need the mapping editor, so I'm going to keep that closed. And with the group editor, I'm going to create some panning offsets. So I'm going to select just the trombone groups, and I'll pan those maybe about 25 degrees or so to the left. And we can see as we click on them that they're all panned now to the left. And let's unselect those and select the trumpet samples now, which are panned center. And I'm going to pan these to about 2 o'clock in the opposite direction. So now we have a little bit of panning going on. If I click there, we see that's that way. And if I click here, we see it's panned the other way. So a little bit of a stereo spread. All right, we don't need to be in edit mode anymore. I'm going to enter snapshot mode. And to save a snapshot, you click the floppy disk icon, and I'm going to name this. And I'll click save, and there it's in our snapshot menu. So just to show you where these are stored on the hard drive, I'm going to switch to the Finder. And here I'm in my user folder. Now it's my specific user folder in Documents, Native Instruments, User Content, Contact Factory Library. Here's my instrument brass layer, and there's this new snapshot that I just saved. So back into Contact, we see this now available in the drop-down menu. Let's create another variation. So back into edit mode, and I'm going to select the trombone samples again. So all three are selected, and this time let's hard pan them. And let's just make sure that they're all hard panned, and then we'll deselect those ones. And we'll pan the trumpets in the opposite direction. And there we go. We can see we have our volume offset that we set up in the last video. So with those selected, let's hard pan these, in case I want to use that in some future project with that panning. It'll be preset. And again, we don't need to be in edit mode. Let's click this again and change the name here. And click Save As. And there we go. So now I've got the two of these. Let's go here, and I can switch. Keep your eye on the panning. There's the original panning and now the new panning. So I think you see where I'm going with this. We can use the snapshots to save multiple variations of an instrument. And this is a simple example of some panning offsets. Let's set up a few more variations. Right now, this is set up as a monophonic instrument, i.e. a solo mode is on, and the legato scripting sounds great when there are slightly overlapping samples. Let me switch back to our 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock panned instrument or variation. I like that, but maybe I want to have it in a polyphonic mode in case I want to play multiple notes together. That's great. And maybe I want to increase the release samples, the volume of them, as opposed to having them off. And maybe I also want to go into the options page here and add some randomization for maybe not volume, but velocity. And even a bit of tuning, and even a bit of panning. Why not? Maybe not that much pitch, a little bit. So now we can click this again and save it as another name. And there we have another variation. But maybe I want to have a version that doesn't have as much of the release sample. So let me just lower that a little bit, maybe something like that. And I'm going to save that as another variation, and I'm just going to add O2 onto it. And I'll go Save As, and we're fine. So now I can scroll through all my variations like that. I can step through them or get them from the drop-down menu. And come to think of it, I think I want to get rid of this original randomized one. It's too much or too loud release sample volume. So I'm going to just click the trash can icon, and yes, I'm going to delete that one. And now I should be left with only 3 of them. Now, another word about working with these snapshots, we can drag and drop them directly from the Finder or from Explorer if you're on Windows. So let's go back to the Finder, and there are 3 variations. I'll just resize this. I can just drag this right here, and there it's loaded up, that variation. And if we look at the snapshots, you'll see it's got the 10:2 panning. I can drag this one in over it. And again, let's look at the variations. And there's the hard panned version. And the other thing we can do is double click on them, and that'll load the actual standalone version of Contact and load the instrument in that we double click on with that snapshot loaded. So those are some ideas on how to use snapshots and save some variations of your instruments, and we'll continue with more in the next video.